Good morning, everyone. Today we're checking out a video from just score short of the top 10 darkest Zelda moments. Let's hop in and check it out.
The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. Available September 26th.
Coincidence? I think not!
Nearly a
What do you
decade
mean?
ago, I took you through the top 10 darkest Mario moments. Now it's time for Nintendo's other flagship franchise. Being aimed at an
yes.
older demographic, the dark moments in Zelda aren't quite as surprising as the ones in Mario. Though, that doesn't stop them from hitting as hard. Now, being a franchise-based list, there is the one per game rule. Otherwise, they'd all be from Majora's Mask.
Which is perfectly
Oh,
fine.
nothing. Just a little foreshadowing.
Now, yes, as you can tell, he did release this video like during the first week of October. I am a little late for it. I would have checked it out the previous week, but there was so much other stuff that I had to do. So unfortunately, he had to take a back seat, but now we're checking it out. Oh, the Forest Temple.
There are very few situations that terrify the human race more than the apocalypse. Whether it's the Book of Revelation, a zombie virus, or nuclear war, it's pretty haunting to think about. But despite our best efforts, our world will come to an end eventually.
Ooh,
And if you find yourself
trouble.
struggling to accept that, you might want to take an example from Hilda and Ravio from A Link Between Worlds. Set many years after the events of A Link to the Past, we must once again bring peace to the Kingdom of Hyrule after Zelda is kidnapped by the evil sorcerer Yuga. To save her,
Damn
you
you,
must travel to a
Paintal.
world parallel to Hyrule, known as
Low
Low
rule.
Not gonna lie, that pun is very mid-rule. And I even then am just numb to the pain at this point.
I've felt worse.
Once you finally make it to
Damn,
Low
alright,
Rule, it's there that we
alright.
meet Princess Hilda, aka Zelda's otherworldly counterpart. At some point she reveals to us that Low Rule used to have a Triforce of its own, but it was destroyed after the citizens found that it caused too much conflict among them. As it turns out though, being conflict avoidant comes with dire consequences, and unfortunately for us, Hilda is willing to do anything to save her kingdom, even if it means tricking Link and Zelda into stealing Hyrule's Triforce for her. Now she does become good in the end, but without Hyrule's Triforce, Low Rule is still screwed. And yet,
Yeah, bound to fall
Hilda and
apart.
Bravio are okay with this. As they bid Link and Zelda a final farewell, they just stand and wait for Low Rule's inevitable end. But then, a literal light in the darkness emerges as Link and Zelda use their Triforce to wish back Low Rules, saving Hilda and Ravio as well as all of Low Rule's citizens. The happy ending may put this moment lower on the list, but it doesn't change the fact that, for a moment, Hilda and Ravio found themselves at peace with the hopelessness of their situation.
They were
It's
ready to
especially
die.
good with how it gets us to empathize with Hilda. You know, the one who tricked Link and Zelda into betraying their own kingdom? Yes, what she did was wrong, but what would you do if your world was on the brink of extinction?
Well, I say we get drunk
Literally
because I'm all
anything.
out of ideas.
Much like the rest of us, she wanted to do everything in her power to keep her world from ending. But eventually, she decided that dying with dignity was better than living as a genocider. It may be bleak, but given how afraid Hilda was of her kingdom dying, and how afraid Ravio was of pretty much everything, readily accepting their fates might be the bravest thing both of them have ever done. Sheesh, if the literal end of the world is only number 10, I shudder to see what we got ahead of us.
Oh, we moved from the end of the world to number 9, and it's...
You know, I mentioned that Zelda games have a more mature tone compared to Mario, but the first few games didn't really have that. Well, besides the cursing you did while going through Death Mountain in Zelda 2. It wasn't until Link to the Past that we started out with a pretty eerie tone. You boot up the game, and the first thing you see is the king's skeletal corpse.
Oh boy, that's
Oh, yeah.
setter.
You wake up hearing Zelda's voice saying she's a prisoner, and your uncle goes out while telling you to stay home. Worried, you grab your torch and go after him.
Well,
It's
last
dark
one, but
and
yes.
raining. The local guards who are supposed to keep the peace are attacking you despite being unarmed. You get to the castle and find your uncle mortally injured. Taking his sword and shield, his last request was to save Zelda. The guards are still hostile as you make your way to Zelda in the castle dungeon. Even after helping her, you're being hunted down, trying to find a hidden passage to escape together. And then, once you
close.
finally escape, the sun comes out and the normal, happy-go-lucky Zelda adventure begins. That is, till you attack the chickens or scare this one townsfolk who sicks the guards after you again.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
it's a short section, but it really sets the tone for the rest of the game, and a massive departure from the series up to this point. It shows me...
Huh, you know, that's actually kind of interesting. Number 10 was the end of a game, number 9 is the beginning of a game. And let's just hope that 8 and 1 and truly is the meat of the game.
Link to the Past is the game that solidified the Zelda
Thank
formula
you.
we've loved for all these years.
Oh, from the start, we moved to number
Once
8.
again, I gotta give Breath of the Wild major props for trying something new with the story and making it work. This time around, Link awakens in what little remains of Hyrule with no memory of the past. The kingdom was reduced to rubble, and Link's been asleep for 100 years. Along with the usual hero shtick, our silent adventurer will have to locate 18 pieces of his fractured memories scattered throughout Hyrule. And the flashbacks don't paint a happy picture of the past. Some are bittersweet, some are frickin' heartbreaking, and some are... It's like a kicking a puppy! Stop teasing me! Arguably, the bleakish flashback is unlocked once you find the other captured memories, and it fills us in on how it all came to this. In the final battle against Calamity Ganon's Guardians, the 4 champions have fallen, and Link and Zelda are the only ones left standing on the battlefield. Link is in absolutely no shape to keep going, but that won't stop him from defending his princess. But at the last minute, Zelda tries to protect him and unlocks her sealing power. The Guardians are deactivated, but there's no time to celebrate as Link's body finally gives out. He lies in his princess's arms, able to rest easy, knowing that she's safe, while Zelda mourns her hero. But then, a slight glimmer of hope. The Master Sword, it's still glowing. That means it's not too late. Without delay, Zelda has Link brought to the Shrine of Resurrection, where he slumbers for over a century.
Yeah,
his wounds and ailments
years.
disappeared, but so did his memories. His life before his awakening, his friends, and even his family are all forgotten. All the while, he's got the occasional bitter Betty blaming him for failing Hyrule. I know you're mourning, Zora, but you think you're the only one hurting? To add another bleak layer to all this, it's unclear what really wiped Link's memories away. Was it actually the shrine, or did the trauma from this near-death experience cause him to lose part of himself? The way they word it, getting back all those memories is gonna be a painful experience, not unlike those who suffer from PTSD. It's not just about restoring Link as a person. Finding all those memories is a process to help him heal from the trauma forced on him. And this is only the start of the recovery. Is this a Nintendo game or an allegory for mental health?
Both. It could be both. But hey, now we move on to number 7, and it's...
This entry is brought to you by one of the 4 Bellum fans in existence.
Wow, how validating.
Right, if I remember correctly, this guy is from Phantom Hourglass.
Bellum from Phantom Hourglass may not have been the most popular big bad in Zelda, least of all because of the game he features in, but he does bring a good amount of grimness onto the table. Most Zelda villains are sapient in some way, but Bellum? He's a monster, through and through. A parasitic phantom squid that feeds on life force and leaves its victims a stony husk. Like a lot of apex predators, he's also surprisingly intelligent. He creates a ghost ship to lure in unsuspecting sailors with the promise of great treasures, only to suck the life out of them. Bellum is so devastating that even the Ocean King couldn't defeat him. Instead, he had to be sealed away in the king's own temple. That doesn't stop Bellum's usual habits, however. He uses the Ocean King's life force to create new minions patrolling the temple and continues to sap the life of anyone foolish enough to venture inside. But that's not all he's got. Bellum can possess people too, transforming Linebeck into a phantom in a way that looks pretty painful. Yeah, if it's not apparent yet, possession is kind of an ick with me. Bellum seems like just another...
I mean, Nintendo kind of overdoes it just a pinch because of how many times Bowser has been possessed.
...monster on a surface level. But the realistically animal way he functions, combined with a visible body count, gives some depth to how creepy he really is. Not unlike the ocean itself and the temple he inhabits. If by some miracle we get to see Bellum again, I'd like him to get even bigger than Morpheal. Now that's sure to draw in those Subnautica fans.
Oh yeah, that would actually be kind of awesome to see. Oh, move on to number 6.
As the de facto most popular Zelda game by a country mile, Ocarina of Time's got kind of a reputation for being the vanilla flavoring of 3D Zelda.
Yes.
As such, people really often forget just how far this game pushed the envelope. Yeah, Ocarina is pretty much ground zero for Zelda having sudden creepy and disturbing moments that really push Nintendo's family-friendly image. Sure, everyone knows the bombshell that is the Shadow Temple, but even before that, Ocarina has a weird fascination with having a lot of dark stuff happen near or in populated areas. In fact, the game pulls this shtick twice.
Oh yeah,
so
that's
let's
right.
start with the first real gut punch.
bottom of the
you
well.
get to the Temple of Time and pull the Master Sword from its pedestal. Ganondorf hits you with all according to Keikaku, and Rauru says that he took that 7-year gap to invade Hyrule. But hey, you're an adult now. You got the legendary sword. What's the worst that can happen?
A city full of re-deads.
Well, this sucks.
So, that's the worst that could happen.
Yep.
The once bright and cheery Castle Town is now abandoned and post-apocalyptic. And with Dead Mountain's eerie volcanic sky in the background, it looks like Ganondorf actually ended
Still an
the
amazing
world.
shot.
And that's not even getting to the unavoidable swarm of re-deads in the town square jump scaring you. Yeah, to the uninitiated, this entire section is an absolute shock to the system. If you played this game as a kid, you were terrified of this bit. Admit it. But hey, at least the majority of Castletown's residents managed to flee to safety in Kakariko.
Oh yeah, thankfully.
Surely everybody's safe there. There's absolutely nothing dark and horrific about this quaint town, right?
No.
Yeah,
no.
you know where this is going.
This well sucks.
The bottom of the well is the darkest part of Ocarina and cements that
This well sucks. It
Hyrule
does.
was still just as terrifying even without Ganondorf running the show. Right underneath this innocent-looking village is a literal torture dungeon, complete with bloody racks, pools of acid, plenty of undead, and corpses
Re-deads,
making
but
up
yes.
the walls of entire rooms.
And let's not forget, of course, the big bad, well, okay, not big bad, but a little bad of that area. What's its name?
And all of it
I honestly don't
is
remember.
capped off by one of the
This guy.
most infamous mini-bosses in the series, Dead Hand. An
Thank you,
emaciated,
Dead Hand.
bloodied, fleshy thing that slowly shuffles up till it goes right for the neck with this downright horrific, unhinged jaw. For those unaware, this aberration is what inspired one of D&D's most popular unofficial monsters, the False Hydra.
No freaking way.
This well.
The 1-2 punch destroyed Castletown, and the well just shatters any sense of safety in Hyrule. The two seemingly safest places in the kingdom, and one of them gets wiped off the map, while the other has everyone drinking from corpse water. Is that why Zelda has weird character designs? Is everyone just suffering from
water.
the side effects of this? Someone get OSHA involved, man.
Well, we move from that to number 5. God, let's get past that.
Following his victory at the end of A Link to the Past, our boy Link decided to do a little globe-trotting. He gets caught in a thunderstorm at sea and wakes up on
Link's
Koholint
Awakening.
Island, a mysterious land with an enormous egg perched on the mountaintops.
Egg.
That's not ominous in the least. The locals are friendly enough outside of the usual monsters, but there's a problem. No one knows what's beyond the horizons, and Link can't leave the island and head home. But all's not lost yet, folks. That giant egg in the mountains, turns out it holds a mysterious deity called the Windfish, and the only way for Link to return home is to wake the sleeping giant up. You know what that means? Dungeon crawling!
Hooray.
Journey across the island and find the 8 magical instruments, battle the occasional monster, and come face to face with each dungeon's ghoulish guardian, known as the Nightmares. They all seem desperate to stop you from waking the big fish up. Wonder why. One grim explanation later.
Ah yes, because when the windfish wakes up, the whole island is just gonna disappear, meaning all of these creatures, people, everything dies.
Blissful ignorance is highly underrated. Further on in the game, we're led to a dungeon mural that reveals the horrible truth about Koholint Island. It's not real. It's all an illusionary world dreamt up by the Windfish. The animals, the islanders, our new friend Marin, they're all just figments of the sleeping god's brain. And the minute he wakes up, the island and everyone Link's met along the way will cease to exist. With that context, getting all those instruments to wake the Titan is basically... I loathe Tuesdays. What makes it sound even worse how the Islanders are
Okay, that was
blissfully
kinda funny.
unaware of all this. They're just happily living their lives as best they can, and it's all a lie. What do? Do we continue the quest and wipe out an entire civilization just to get home? Or do we let them
you
keep
kind of
going?
have to.
Well, we never see Hyrule or Zelda ever again. We cautiously keep going with the mission. Turns out we made the right call. The final bosses of the game, the Shadow Nightmares, were the ones who created the monsters roaming around the island. They're parasites that corrupted the slumbering Windfish's dreams. As long as he remained asleep, they could take over the island and feed off of him forever. The friendly citizens of Koholint would have suffered far worse. The sad truth is that destroying the dream was an act of mercy, saving the fish from being trapped in his dreams for eternity and sparing the islanders from the Shadow Nightmare's tyranny. With all the bonds he made on the island, it feels like a no-win situation for everyone. Unfortunately, being a hero means sometimes you have to make tough decisions for the greater good.
There is at least technically one good thing, but I'm not gonna spoil that. Well, we move on to number 4.
It isn't enough to defeat Ganondorf or fix the Master Sword. Zelda needs to get stronger. There is one way, though.
How much are you willing to sacrifice in the name of protecting something you care about? The answer will, of
Everything.
course, vary from person to person. Many people consider the laying down of one's own life to be the highest form of sacrifice. You know what? I'm not doing that whole spiel again. It's Light Dragon from Tears of the Kingdom.
How shocking.
Like,
Oh,
how could
damn.
I not put this on the list? Watching Zelda turn into the Light Dragon is a full cutscene away from body horror. It is traumatizing, man. To sum up, Tears of the Kingdom opens with Link and Zelda finding a mummified Ganondorf, and once awakened, he uses his blight to cut off Link's arm, destroy the
crud.
Master Sword, and catapult Zelda back in time. Now, those of you familiar with Zelda will recall that there isn't a blacksmith alive that possesses the amount of sacred power
Okay, I really gotta play that game, and it's a good thing I own a copy.
needed to repair the Master Sword. So, Link sends it to the distant past for Zelda to fix. However, the only tool at her disposal is the secret stone around her neck, and even that isn't powerful enough on its own to fix the Master Sword. The only way Zelda can harness enough power to fix it is if she swallows the sacred stone and transforms into an immortal and mindless dragon.
Oh,
And yeah, the insane
crap.
transformation sequence as Zelda makes one last request to Link before becoming the feral light dragon is enough to make anyone shudder. I'm not sure what's scarier, the idea of losing one's cognition or actually watching it happen to somebody. Now, I used to believe that there may exist some timelines that Zelda was stuck as a dragon, but Nintendo has recently confirmed that the Calamity Saga is its own timeline. So,
You gotta be kidding me! We had a way of wrapping it all. Oh my god, I'm a little pissed. Oop, hold on.
not
Sorry.
as dark as
Sorry, I
it
don't know why
could
that
have been,
glitched.
but still. Imagine having to live forever as a senseless beast. Wasn't this supposed to be a fun little fantasy game where you smash pots to get rupees?
What? Hey, what the hell are you doing with my stuff? I'm looking for rupees.
Now,
Damn it,
Zelda
Smosh.
does revert back to normal. Like, cool, happy ending for all. But that does not
Oh,
stop
that's
the
good.
seriously dark transformation sequence made even darker by its implications. Also, this doesn't necessarily add to its darkness, but watching Link pull the Master Sword out of Light Dragon Zelda may be the most epic pulling out the Master Sword moment in the entire Zelda franchise. And all it took was implied body horror to get there. Hashtag worth it?
Definitely not. Definitely not. On to number 3.
So, you know the whole thing where games will say that you have to save the world from a threat and give you a looming bad result to keep you motivated? You know, stuff like, if you don't stop the villain, the world will end. Well, typically,
Very common.
how it goes is the game will tell you you have to act fast, but realistically, you have all the time in the world. Complete those fishing side quests, no rush. Minish Cap pulls this trope in its final chapter. Once you finish your trek through Dark Hyrule Castle and reach the boss door, Hyrule's evilest pretty boy, Vati, gives an announcement that upon the third strike of a bell, he will have finished draining the energy from Princess Zelda, who he happens to have petrified in stone and become an unstoppable god. So, basic villainous boasting, and you run through a few rooms of scripted bell tolls. You figure, yeah, the game's just upping the dramatics to make Vati seem like a bigger threat. And you get to the final room where you have to face against 3 Dark Nuts at
Oh, I
once.
remember
now,
that
a
room.
lot of people are going to be able
Difficult.
to beat these guys, no sweat. But these are still Dark
I said
Nuts.
difficult,
They
not
take a
impossible.
while to kill. Should you struggle against the trio enough, well, let's let the game speak for itself. I'm sorry, what?
Oh, you just straight up
If you
lose.
take too long, Vati completes his ritual and you get a game over. Let me repeat that. Vati wins. Zelda is
Dad.
They really pulled a fast one adding this to the game because we didn't even have a timer for this segment. Minish Cap has been pretty free of the usual nightmare stuff plaguing other Zelda games, so this hits you right when you least expect it. It clearly tells you, no, Vati's a real threat. You need to hustle now. And then there's the implications. You know how the Zelda timeline has the downfall timeline? The one where Link dies to Ganon in Ocarina and the resulting fallout? Yeah, this game shows you exactly what a scenario like that would be. A timeline where Vati wins and ascends to godhood, ruling over Hyrule for who knows how long. One where Princess Zelda fades into, well, a legend. Darkness aside, there's just a whole host of possibilities with this idea, isn't there? Just imagine what you could do. The stories that could be told where Vati takes the role that Ganon does. Fanfic writers, hop on the scenario, I beg you. Or, heck, I wonder if that could be a timeline for future games to explore. I mean, we explored the ones where Link dies in Ocarina of Time. The potential is endless.
I mean, it always is, since they decide that it's not one timeline, it's multiple. Ever since.
Twilight Princess. Okay, fine. I know Twilight is the darkest Zelda game since Majora, so there may be some parts that you might be thinking about, like the Arbiter's Grounds or Zant's literal mental breakdown. But you know what I'm talking about here. We're talking about that scene. The one you think of whenever you see blank eyes or a bunch of laughing, falling people.
You know what? Yes, I know what you're talking about now.
Shortly after saving the light spirit Lanayru, he decides to give Link a vision of the history of what he seeks, the Fused Shadow. We see Link and his childhood friend Ilia looking over the Triforce, but then Ilia tries to stab Link, but Link stabs her first and runs to the Triforce. 3 Dark Links appear with the Fused Shadow, covering the Triforce and basically vaporizing Link. And then Link appears as one of the Dark Clones with the creepiest blank eyes you'll ever see. The 3 light spirits come down and get rid of the Fused Shadow. The blank eye Link that just screams before he disappears with the other Dark Links. And then...
yeah, this whole thing. Honestly, this scene still never made a whole lot of sense to anyone.
I didn't know drenched in metaphor was a synonym for tripping balls. Shout this to anyone who was unfamiliar with Zelda. They think you were talking about a creepypasta. For some context, Lanayru was giving a warning to Link about the Fused Shadow. The Link and Ilia at the beginning represented normal Hylians coveting the Triforce. The Dark Links represented the interlopers who created the Shadow to enter the Sacred Realm. The Blank-Eyed Link represented what would happen if our boy surrendered himself to said power. The scream would be the punishment for doing so. And the Falling Ilias are... well, that one's still up for interpretation, but generally it's all the people you could rule over if you decide to use the power of the Fused Shadow. The dazed look Link had at the very end can be seen as him enjoying feeling some of the power of the Shadow before snapping back to reality. How does this play for the rest of the game?
Could be.
Nothing. Despite that look, Link doesn't get possessed at all. It's actually more of a warning to Midna than anything else, since she's the one who wants to use the Shadow to kill Zant. It's a lesson that craving power would result in chaos or self-destruction. Doesn't stop you from going after that last piece, though. But unless you watched the lore video or are really good at figuring out messaging, good luck not having to clean your pants after this scene. And on the complete other side of the subtlety spectrum, I want to take a quick moment to talk about something really exciting. We're working on an animation pitting Starfire from DC against Blaze the Cat from Sega, and it's going to be a fiery showdown. Similar to others, we've done a lot of scientific and logical analysis of the character's lore and abilities, and the animation showcasing our research is well underway. We've already gotten a lot of support for this project, but we need your help to bring it across the finish line. By supporting us on Ko-fi, not only will you get some sweet rewards like exclusive artwork and early access, but you'll also help decide the fate of potentially future battles. You could even vote on the next fight. Also, once we get this project halfway funded, we'll release the pre-fight animatic as a small preview. So if that's something you want to see, please check out the link in the description and in the pinned comment below to support the campaign. But if you can't really donate, that's fine too. Just signal boosting the Ko-fi page or the trailer on the channel will do more than you think. Every little bit helps, and together, we can make this fight legendary.
Huh. It's actually kind of cool to see. Hold on. It's actually kind of cool to see other people doing their own death battles in a way.
With his head! Jeez.
And on to number 1.
And now for number
The Darkest Zelda Moment.
1, the entry
That's
you've all
right.
been waiting for, Majora's Mask. Yeah, real original, I know. But can you really blame me? From start to finish, this game is one long stream of dark, weird, and straight up creepy moments. If it wasn't for the 1 per game rule, this list could easily have been the top 10 darkest Majora's Mask moments. In lieu of
Truly.
that, I present to you the top 5 darkest Majora's Mask moments. Majora's Mask
Oh, so we get a top 5 within a top 10.
is a game that loves its side quests. The time you spend working on them can easily eclipse the main objective. By far, the biggest one is the Anju and Cafe side quest. It spans from the first day to the final hours. The titular characters are a pair of star-crossed lovers, and it's up to you to reunite them. It's not easy though, as missing even one event can lock you out of it for the entire cycle. And if you really mess up, Cafe gets trapped in Seiken's hideout. He doesn't even panic, just accepts his fate and apologizes for getting Link involved. If Anju and Cafe finally reunite, it's right before the moon falls. The two of them just accept their fate, happy to be together for any amount of time. Especially bad if you thought you did something wrong and played the Song of Time right before Cafe came in. Them. No, really, we don't even get a proper name for them.
yes.
Are they ghosts? Aliens? Ghosts of aliens?
These
Whatever they are, they're
creatures.
as weird as they are freaking creepy. You have to defend the ranch against these things, and failing to do so will result in Romani getting abducted. You later find her like this. What
Definitely
exactly
lobotomized
did
or
they
probed.
do to her?
You don't want to know. Don't tell it. You shouldn't have told me, but you did. And now I'm telling you, you don't want to know.
And then you realize, oh yeah, they invade every cycle. So unless you actively stop it, Romani gets abducted a heck of a lot. Oh, there goes Romani. The moment you
Oh, damn
turn
it.
on the game, you're thrown into the deep end. You see this frickin' looking mask heading straight towards you. The first cutscene takes place in a mysterious forest where Link is ambushed and the Ocarina of Time is stolen from him by this creature with the same mask you just saw. Then
Yep.
you get turned into a Deku Scrub in a horrific sequence and get thrust into a world completely unknown to you. Your only allies are a less than friendly fairy and a guy you're pretty sure is gonna stab you in the back.
He wants
the
your
entire
face.
part with the Deku Scrubs was actually inspired
He's
by
gonna take your
nightmares
face.
Eiji Onuma had from the tight deadlines. Oh, that explains so much. The Moonfall. This thing is a
yes.
constant presence throughout your entire journey. Everything you do is punctuated by the fact that taking too long will result in the world being destroyed. The anticipation only builds with the music in Clocktown. It goes from peaceful
I noticed
to
that.
nervous to panicked to tragically
Very fast.
resigned. And when the moon does fall, it's every bit as horrifying as you'd expect. Keep in mind, this game came out in the year 2000. The only way most of us at the time were able to see this was by letting the world end. We had no one to blame but ourselves. To put
You
this
just
into
had to
perspective,
lose.
this was the first Zelda game the writer of this segment ever played. While it definitely scared him, this is the only part that made him straight up turn the game off. By far, the darkest area of the entire game is Akana Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
Everything about it just feels so horrifically off. So much you could make a, wait, are we seriously doing a mini countdown within a mini countdown? No, why
Really?
not?
I'm going deeper, Leo.
What is this thing? There's no hidden...
Oh, so what is this? A top 5 within a top 5 within a top 10?
lore behind it. You just play a weirdly depressing song and make bootleg clones of yourself. Ugh, especially the Goron one. No wonder it inspired a creepypasta. So, before you can even enter Ikana, you need to get a Garo's mask. Once there, it's possible
my
to encounter them by
God.
wearing it, in which they pop out of the ground, mistake you for their master, and then trap you in a ring of fire for a duel. Kinda creepy, but then you learn what they actually are. Empty shells of spies in the kingdom kept alive by sheer force of willpower. And it's implied that if they were to die or get captured on enemy ground, They unalived themselves. Freaky fact? That's
seppuku.
actually what real-life samurai did. Two of the characters that you meet in Akana are the Composer brothers, Sharp and Flat. Sharp locked up his brother beneath the graveyard and put a curse on the canyon, causing Gibdos to invade. If you try to use the Song of Healing on Sharp, it won't work. He explains it's because the song no longer has any meaning to him. That, and he sold his soul to the devil.
Of
yeah,
course.
just as Jesus is canon in Zelda, so is Satan. Neat.
Yeah,
Fitting for such a
apparently.
desolate area, the Akana region has a pretty dark backstory. Due to a war with the nation the Garo hail from, the kingdom is in complete ruins in the present day. However, death is not an escape for the citizens. Most of the people and enemies you encounter are either ghosts incapable of moving on or way past their expiration date. And even after completing the stone tower, we never know just what its purpose was. Wait a minute.
Something.
A ruined kingdom with a dreary atmosphere populated by undead enemies where the player has to put together the backstory themselves. Majora's Mask was the original Dark Souls! The freakiest moment
Yeah, I
in
guess
Akana is
apparently.
also one of the first you experience. Being a Valley of the Dead, it's infested with Gibdos. After you clear them out via a giant music box, you go inside
Music box house.
I'll just let the clip speak for itself. What the fuck? Of course, you
Yeah,
heal him
he
and
put on a
everything
mask.
goes back to normal for them, but... a father turned into a monster
It's
that
just
you
called
need
Yes.
to lock away. Pretty heavy stuff. I'm Josh Scorcher and... That's it. I'm putting a limit on mini countouts from now on. Yeesh, is my voice really that high and whiny? Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you that for a while now.
Oh, well, that was just... I have no idea what to say about this. Alright, everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to support the original creator and all they do. And check out this video for yourself because it's a top 5 within a top 5 within a top 10. And so that's a total of 20 counts for one video. Alright, well, I hope to see all of y'all next time. This is Fox signing out. Peace.